Have you ever been reading a book and you get to the end of the chapter and it's just kind of boring, and so you close the book and you never pick it up again?
You know, I've done that several times because the book just didn't hold my attention, or you get to the first chapter and then the next chapter, it's like, I don't know, it just didn't grab me.
Well, that's why this video is so important. How to end your chapters in a way that keeps your reader's attention. And I have 7 things for you to help you with this. But make sure you watch to the end, where I have 3 secret mini tips that I'm going to share with you to help you with this.
All right, I want to see the mini tips.
The first thing is momentum. You want to make sure that the momentum and the movement of your story propels the story from one chapter to the next and keeps the reader's attention. And the first thing you're going to do with this is to stop your chapter at the end of the chapter while there's still something happening. And one thing, an example of this would be if you have a character who has this blissful little life in this little village and something traumatic happens and they find out they have to leave their village for this epic journey. That's where you stop the story. And a lot of times writers will want to tell us how they pack their bag and how they sleep that night and what they had for breakfast before they set out in the morning. No, you want to stop at the high point in the momentum to keep that momentum and propel it. The other thing you want to consider is a moving car. Your story is like a moving car. Now, we've all ridden in cars. And we've ridden on the freeway going really fast. Very few of us want to jump out of that moving car on the freeway. But if the car is parked and we decide we don't want to go on this journey, then that's when we get out of the car. So you want to end your chapters in motion. Do not end your chapter as a parked car. So that's what you want to do with the end of your chapter. Number 2 is questions, not just answers. So when you are looking at your book, you want to give your reader answers to questions, but you also want to ask new questions. And one thing to consider is that you can end your chapter on a new question. And if you're giving answers, you want to try to feed it to your reader in a way that your reader has to unravel the answer to discover it. And it keeps your reader engaged because they have to think about it. And then you give another question, and that helps build the momentum of your story. Number 3 is emotion. So we are humans, and emotions are part of the human experience. Emotions are also something that's what we connect to in a story. And so think about ending a chapter on a high emotion or a low emotion. One thing to keep in mind with this is that if you start your chapter at a certain emotion, you want to end the chapter at an opposite emotion. For example, a high emotion, your character's at a really good place, they're really happy. By the end of the chapter, everything should be devastation and they should be upset. It should be an opposite emotion. But that emotion is one way that you can keep your reader engaged. But by giving different emotions throughout the book, you give your reader a chance to take a breath and catch up. Number 4 is cliffhanger. Now, a cliffhanger is a classic way to end a chapter. It really puts people in suspense. What's going to happen? It's one of those things where you absolutely will stay up way past your bedtime to find out what happens to the woman hanging from a twig off the side of the cliff. You gotta know. And so you are sleep deprived because of it. And you can thank the cliffhanger. Now, I have an example for you from our up and coming book that's going to be released soon. And I'm going to read that to you of a cliffhanger ending of a chapter. The door crashed inward and Meadow lunged at the 2 girls by the door. Aurora felt a crushing impact as the metal bar in the woman's hand swung widely, colliding with her midsection. She felt a jolt of power collide with the metal bar, and her fingertips shot out several large bursts of scattered blue light. Her head hit the sink, and the floor rushed upwards. Her eyes fell on Victoria, who was lying on the ground not far away as she drifted into unconsciousness. That is a classic cliffhanger example because the reader doesn't know what's going to happen. We got to read the next chapter to find out what happened to Victoria and what happens to Aurora. You can use a cliffhanger as a classic way to end your chapter. Make sure you like and subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future videos. Now, number 5 is mystery. You can use a mystery at the end of a chapter to keep your reader engaged. You don't necessarily have to be writing a mystery genre, but you can have unanswered questions that are a mystery. Who did it and why did they do it? It's a great way to end a chapter. Number 6 is foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is a great tool to use all throughout your story, but in particular at the end of a chapter, you're giving the reader a glimpse of something that is going to happen in the future. Like, for example, next week's video is going to be about how to get over the midpoint slump in your story. So make sure you subscribe so you can catch that video. That was a form of foreshadowing, talking about something that is to come, but it hasn't happened yet. Number 7 is conflict. Conflict is a great way to end any chapter. You can use conflict to stir up, create more tension in your story. And conflict is a great way to keep your reader engaged. But remember to end on that conflict and end at the high point of the conflict so that you have a great ending of a chapter. If these writing tips were helpful to you, then you would enjoy this video. Now, it's time for my 3 secret mini tips. Number 1 is remember that your chapter sets up what's going to happen in the next chapter. And the next one, number 2, is you want to make sure that you give a little bit of a mix of how you end your chapters to keep the reader on their toes. And then the third one is use your chapters to give the reader a reason to keep reading. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.